anybody wants to talk about Canada and Jesse Marsch, have we been impressed with what we've seen? Obviously, it's job done, isn't it? I think is how he'll look at that. And obviously, some of the performances you might not be able to look too much into because of red cards, heat conditions.
Did we expect much more than this from Canada?
Did you expect them to come out of the group? Let's be honest. I don't think so, no.
That's what I'm saying.
They overachieved.
Yeah, this is an overachievement.
Yeah, for me, it was Argentina and Chile would be the two teams that people would have said would have come out of this group. So in the short space of time he's been there, I think it's a great achievement. He deserves credit for it because it's so hard to go and do it internationally. You don't get to work with these players week in, week out for a while to really implement your ideas. He's gone in there. They put in some good performances, some good displays at times, still things to work on. The one concern for me is when Chile go down to 10 men, the fact that they still couldn't control the game, that Chile was still alive in the game and Chile looked like the team that's more likely to score. So that's a bit of a concern tactically moving forward, where you want him to maybe rearrange in a better situation to dominate the game in comparison to when Panama played USA, where Panama controlled the game when USA went down to 10.
I feel like match day 3, just quickly, presents a dynamic where even if you're a man down and the other team is desperate for a goal, they really need that goal, especially towards the last 15 minutes of the game, they'll push you back. And they had enough personality, Jesse got enough out of their players to fight through it and weather the storm to qualify out of the group with the world champions and 2 other CONMEBOL teams, one of which has recently won 2 Copa America. So there is a aura of winning, if you will. Obviously, Chile's far removed from that, but it's still Chile.
But if they're going to commit numbers forward, that's going to leave spaces open.
Yeah.
Especially for a team like Canada. With the level of quality, there's been a lot of conversations about golden eras. This is Canada's golden era so far. This is the highest level of quality they've had across the board. To not be able to convert that into something just a little bit more fruitful when they play is a little frustrating to see. I don't think the experiment.
5 matches, though.
I get it. But still, and I know that it's early doors, but the experiment of having Kyle Larin and Jonathan David next to each other, I don't think is working to the best of what we could see, especially from a Jonathan David. I think you've got a midfield with Estacio, you've got Kone back there, you've got Davies, Alphonso Davies. You've got so much more skill and talent that I don't think we've seen them really flourish. And I'm not suggesting that that's not coming. Jesse Marsch needs time to implement what his tactics are. But I will say, for the level of talent they have, I still don't think they've played up to the best of their ability.
I think they've done okay. And let's shout out to Maxim Kripol because he's been sensational. Because if he hasn't been on the form he has in goal, they would have been taking some drummings.
It's so subpar from the expectation of Mexican football, and their premature elimination from Copa America is just evidence to the reality that Mexican football is suffering from a deep-rooted crisis that's pulling them from a whole different direction, from Liga MX institutionally being a disaster because they have no promotion, they have no relegation, they want to pay foreigners, there's no development of youth talent, Mexican internationals don't want to go to Europe, it's all a business, and that all in turn affects the national team, and there needs to be some serious figuring out and solutions.
As well, because these aren't immediate fixes.
Mexico has lost the balance because if you look about Mexico years ago, there used to be a massive export of Mexican players playing all over Europe, a greater export than there has been. Now a lot of the Mexican players are staying domestically in the Mexican league. They're not going out there anymore. And also the development part hasn't been great. Mexico do not excite me anymore. No. And that's the thing. No matter what it is, you get ready to a World Cup, when you hear Mexico's playing, you want to watch because of the history of the country, the players that they've produced, everything about them, how they play the game. It's just exciting. There is no excitement no more. And everything that Nico said, he's 100% right, and literally it's like open heart surgery right now for Mexico.
Yeah.
You guys have mentioned it on this desk before, the individual superstar, the individual player that could seemingly take over a match just doesn't exist. I don't see someone willing this team on. I think their 2 best players in this last match were both, Romo, who's a backup for Alvarez, who goes down when he's injured, and Quiñones, who's a Colombian who became Mexican to play on this team. I mean, you're talking about the answer was it the coach? Okay, you've got another coach. And Jimmy Lozano. Is it the players? Is it the institution? There's no right answer. All of it is wrong. All of it is bad right now. Something has to happen because a strong Mexico makes the U.S. better. A strong Mexico makes Canada better. A strong CONCACAF in general. They were the team you would look at and say, okay, you carry the torch for CONCACAF.
The standard
that
bearers.
doesn't exist anymore.
And what happens now, Nico? Because do they stick with what they've got, with this change in the squad? Do they stay with Jimmy Lozano, or or is it yet again a
that
new
doesn't
look
fix
for
it.
this?
Well, that's on the
Well, there is
institution.
no fix
It
right
feels
now,
like
is there? But the
you're-
immediate fix.
You're putting a Band-Aid on
Yeah.
something, right? But the fix is a scrap everything and let's start from zero, because
How realistic is that, though, to scrap what?
It's
you got
possible.
two teams. You gotta look within Mexican football. This is a Mexican football problem, because when your best players are wanting to play in Liga MX because they can pay you considerably more than what they can pay you in Europe, and the Mexican player is comfortable staying in Liga MX instead
the
of
word
They,
comfortable is
but
capital letters.
they can get paid well in Europe as well. The problem is they're not developing those players good enough to go there. Because if you look at it,
I don't think
how
you
many
understand what he's
Brazilians are
saying.
going over there?
Like someone who would be a marginal star in Europe is a superstar in Mexico. They were getting paid multitudes of what they would get paid, where they would have to try their hardest to get on that team.
Here's an example. Why would a Pavel Pardo out from Atlas, arguably, and in my eyes, the best academy in the history of Mexican football, Pavel Pardo goes from Atlas to America, and then Europe comes knocking, and he goes to a Stuttgart, for example, right? Today, why you really think Stuttgart can offer a Pavel Pardo, a Mexican star, more than what a Tigres can offer, more than what an America can offer, more than a Chivas can offer? And that's why that superstar, with all that potential, with an enormous ceiling, stays stagnant in the Mexican league.
I will just say, for me personally, when you look at these teams and the top teams in Europe, if you're good enough, they'll get you. Because there's no reason why a lot of these clubs are going to Brazil, especially Palmeiras right now.
But there's
and they're
always
getting a lot.
intermediary steps to get
There is,
there.
but there's other clubs. I just feel that if the clubs believe that these players are that good, they would get them. The problem, like you've just said, is there has been a lack of development. And I think let's just give credit. Speaking to that table, Venezuela, being top of that group, they deserve credit. Because football is not their national sport, by the way. A lot more kids used to play baseball more. Football's only just starting to grow now. And baseball is their national sport.
So just back to your point about Liga MX, I mean, how realistic is it that they can kind of change how the league is formed?
They're too influential into Mexican soccer in general, the owners of the Liga MX clubs as well. And this is a problem that stretches across the whole of the country, the entire portion of the footballing world over there. This isn't the federation's over here.
It's not one
So
simple
basically,
thing.
it's not going to be. Nothing dramatically is going to change. Is the reality.
That is the big worry. And the owners of the clubs in Mexico have way too much power. I mean, starting from Chivas, who can only use Mexican players, so they have the money to lure Mexican talent to them and not to Europe. So everybody else doesn't want their players to go to Mexico, right? So everyone else is paying their own Mexican players higher. So yes, the league is profitable, and if you're an owner, you like that. But it's to the detriment. It's to the detriment. And you look at the counterpart, the United States. The United States still wants to export the talent, and a top American talent they want to export.
Robinson had the chance to go to Europe and was getting paid more by FC Cincinnati. So
but
that problem is starting.
But we're producing more players, and Mexicans also are lured by Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
I would say
maybe even the
looking
reports
at
of
this,
Weston McKennie too with the Cincinnati.
$12 million a year.
We can speculate and say here.
That in Europe in 3 years.
Back in Mexico, seeing this right now, how this goes in the footballing world and journalists there, this is going to be a wake-up call, and they will probably have to change things because they will not want to be a laughing
and they've
stock.
hit the snooze button every time.
Losing to the United States 3 times in major tournaments, and at least in Nations League, and then having your worst winless streak against the United States, your biggest rival in CONCACAF, has been a wake-up call. There's been a changeover in federation, in the leadership in the federation, and it hasn't gotten any better. This is a new rock bottom for Mexico before they host a World Cup in 2026. And I don't know if 2 years is enough time for them to really shift the gears and get the train on a different track.